I always like these silent moments when people in the future are watching the replay and they're like, why is it taking so long?
Oh, look at that. It says, oh, look at that. Meeting is now live streaming on YouTube. You made it work.
We have the technology.
Wonders never cease.
Yeah, look at that.
Yay.
All right. Yay, it's working. All right, Lumberjack, this is your baby, man. Why don't you kick it off?
Oh, so am I the one that's delayed? I think I'm the one that's delayed.
Oh, you're the one that's delayed.
Yeah, it looks good on my screen. So,
all right, if it looks good on your screen, then that's all I really care about.
right.
Oh.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Three Amigos.
Yeah.
Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Three Amigos Thanksgiving Day live stream. We are here on YouTube, and I'm sure that there will be issues.
So the goal today is to go over some questions. We have some from the Facebook group.
Yep.
Let's look specifically to see what came up today.
So it looks like we have comments already on the YouTube, on the channel. That's good. Good morning, everyone. How are you?
Good morning.
This is our first time doing this, so we're trying to figure out. We think right now that Dion and I are in sync, and Matt is late or delayed. It's way delayed, is what Matt is saying.
Well, that makes it interesting.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's see. Why don't we take that question yesterday that we got that I sent both of you? Oh, let me pull that up again. Basically, we got a question yesterday to start us off. Basically saying that three of you are talking about deflation coming. And what can you do? Obviously, we've talked about having increased cash reserves so that we kind of heads we win, tails we win. But they were asking, what else could you do besides having cash? Dion, have you given any thoughts to that question?
So I relate it to the way I run a business. And a lot of business owners are usually concerned when there's an election year coming up. And they think, if the election goes this way, these are the rules that are going to hit us. And if it goes this way, and the perception is one side is business friendly, one side is not. The business owner's job is to have a strategy for whoever gets into office.
Right.
The investor's job is to have a strategy for whether there is inflation, deflation, whether there's appreciation, whether there's a correction, a crash. Like, we should be strategizing at least to know what our main objective would be.
Mm-hmm.
Is it protect assets? Is it go into growth mode? Is it shop while things are on sale? So for deflation, I'm getting on board with the have cash ready. I think that deals are going to come up that we'll never know the reason why someone sells. I think in a good market, we never know the reason why somebody sells. So that's why I'm doing the cash out refinance that you guys talked me into, having that money added to my savings that I already had, because I think most of us our age haven't really experienced a strong deflation period before. So when we do, it's going to be good to have money ready.
Yeah. So it looks like Matt just sent us a text. He's going to turn off his camera. I'm not sure why, but that's okay.
It's probably changing, putting on pants.
Yeah, he's putting on pants. Thank you for turning off the camera, Matt. I appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah, I think that is absolutely right. So I don't want people to take our conversations about deflation like we expect that to be coming. We're just ready for it just in case. At least in my opinion, it's kind of, I think I said on one of our episodes, this is kind of 80-20. I think inflation is going to be around longer, and that's the main thing, but I've got to prepare for the other side, right? So it's not like I'm just sitting here waiting for deflation and doing nothing. So we'll get to part two in a second. The other thing I want to say about deflation is kind of heads I win, tails I win, is I purposely went ahead. Oh, I can hear myself. That's kind of weird. What is Matt doing? But anyways, I was getting my debt structures right. I was trying to take interest rate risk off. Now, some people might be saying, hey, if you go deflationary, won't rates go down? Well, possibly. And if they go down, who says I can't refi again? Right? That's the beauty of real estate is I can lock in money now. So if inflation takes over and rates go up, I'm good. But if rates go down, if they get cut in half, who says I can't refi again? I'll pay the $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 and refi again. So
Right. That was my thought for deflation too, was, I mean, I agree. You don't think deflation is going to happen. We actually have a bet where you think it's not going to happen. And I think it is. And I have a couple of reasons, but if deflation happens and they have to try to keep the market going, that's where the Fed would lower rates. So having cash on the side, it sounds like it doesn't make sense because that's when you would pull cash out if rates are lower. But if I have cash on the side, that is a bigger down payment for properties that I can purchase at a lower interest rate, giving me more buying power in that market. Or if there's inflation and some people are buying assets now that they can't handle in a couple of years because they were counting on that hockey stick rent growth continuing, which we have no guarantee that it's going to, then we're going to be in position to take advantage of that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So part two of this, I really want to hit on. Basically, the second part of this question is, hey, I bought a couple of deals. I used some of my cash, but not all. I still have a healthy chunk left. Should I just wait? And this is always my concern when I tell people what I'm doing in my business, right? People are looking at Zuber saying, hey, he's excited about potentially deflation in really pain in apartments. That's where I've think pain is coming in its years, right? I'm looking around corners at this point. I still want everybody to know that I'm still doing great deals, right? It is always a great day to do great deals. So if you do the work, you find average, and then if average is 8 and you find an 11, do the deal, right? Matt talks about, I think the lowest deal he's done recently is 20%, which is nuts in his market. You would always do a 20. So I don't know what you think about that one.
So my goal right now is I have money sitting, I've saved money and I'm taking out the home equity line of credit. My goal is actually, and I've said this on a couple of videos, is to my next property I want to cost more than $1 million. I want to put my money where my mouth is. I've said several times, I wish my deals cost more as long as the yield scaled with it.
Yeah.
So I'm saving up that money. And this is something all investors struggle with, is as we're saving that money, and that is the goal, I'm still looking for deals. Last week in the Bigger Pockets boot camp live session as a training assistant, I looked at a deal. I said, let me pull up one of the emails from one of my agents and we're going to look at this deal together. And I look at so many deals that just don't work that I expected to have a training session to be like, hey, here's what it is. Here's what the listings agent says. Here's why that's ridiculous. This is where I know the areas. I looked at a triplex that had a 19% return, and on the live training session, I pick up my phone and compose a message to my agent saying, hey, I want to make an asking price offer with this much earnest money, because my goal is to buy that more expensive property. But when you find a good deal, you jump on it. And then I made the offer. Somebody, because it's such a good deal, somebody overbid me, so I'm in second position. So I've submitted my letter with my agent saying, let the seller know that congratulations, but if that falls through because of funding, they pull out, whatever reason, my offer still stands.
Yeah, and what I would tell you to do, this is how I bought most of my properties in 2010, 11, is I was second, right? There was always somebody who would overpay. I would follow up every 2 weeks. It would be on my calendar every Monday or every Friday or whatever. Just, never rely on being in second position. It's often, who follows up wins.
I'm about 50%, literally almost half of my properties I got in second position.
Oh yeah, there you go. Looks like we got a text from Matt saying he is suffering from a 20-second delay. He is telling us to keep rolling. The only thing we could do is stop live streaming. So we'll at least keep going for a little while, see if we can make this work. If not, in
the future, we'll just call Matt the host.
Yeah.
He'll set these up.
Yeah, we're trying. We tried to do something new. All right, let's pull up the group. Just text me when you want to wrap up the so basically it's just going to be Dion and I talking, it looks like. That's okay. All right. So again, folks, we can see your questions. At least I can on my phone. Have you seen it? Or Dion, do you have any questions that you had?
Yeah, let me go through the list here. Happy Thanksgiving. Good morning. I want to thank everybody for waking up this morning and turning this on. We appreciate it. We were trying out new tech, and hopefully we can get to some questions here. I hope Matt's daughter's doing well too. Hopefully he hears this.
Yeah.
So
Me too.
Thanksgiving. What's a way to start your Thanksgiving day with the three amigos? Thank you.
Yeah.
Happy Thanksgiving, Cody. Good morning. Reached out to Matt, the mortgage guy, yesterday, and unfortunately, they don't do mortgages in Virginia. I'm trying to do 4321, but with low down conventional because pricing is better for you.
Yeah. So the Matt, the mortgage guy, he's I think he's 42 states that he can do in, because he used to be California only, now 42. His intention is to do 50, but he will absolutely get you connected with somebody in Virginia. I spoke with him yesterday about that topic. My hope is he's licensed in all 50 states probably by Valentine's Day, but that's where that's going.
And then there's a question from Retrainer. Does anyone know if you can go from a single family up to a triplex or quad in the same market with low down conventional or other loan program? So I'll answer from my limited experience, and then Mike can correct me. Absolutely. It's FHA and VA that sometimes lenders will kind of limit. They want you moving towards a single family or a larger single family. With conventional loans, that's not a question. I've never been asked, what are you moving from and to? I went from a duplex to a fourplex with a conventional with a lower, most lenders were running 25% down. I did 20% down because I wanted some equity, but they would have done a lower down payment, even though I was moving to a fourplex. So yes. Yeah.
Where the 4321 breaks down is kind of when you try to do low down owner occ loans, to your point, right? If you're doing an investment loan, doesn't matter. Never been a question. You can bounce around. Yeah. It does.
So that was what I was saying, Mike, and that way maybe you can clear it up. Even so, it was FHA and VA that they told me that they had some restrictions. If I was doing an owner occupied, but conventional, they didn't care.
They don't.
So, okay. Right. Good, Matt's still watching.
Yep.
Los dos amigos.
That's funny.
Bienvenidos.
Yep. There you go.
Matt download Zoom app on his phone. Maybe that might work.
Don't know. Matt, get busy.
Know thyself first. I am struggling to find the right rent prices to list. The MLS comps professed by my agent are much lesser than the ones I find on Zillow. So we've talked about this a few times. I have a video on my channel called Setting Rents in a Hot Market. And there's really two different formats for finding rent. One is the way that works when rents are going up slowly, like 5% a year. And that's going to services that use historical data like Rentometer or calling the housing authority. And I did get some news recently that Rentometer is basing it on the last 3 months instead of the last 12 months because they realized they were starting to fall behind. Yep. And I went and verified that one of the rents I looked at about a month ago where they were $400 light on is about right now. So maybe they're catching up.
Yeah.
I go to apartments.com and Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace to check currently today, if I was trying to rent that size unit in that area, what are the rents? Zillow might be one I just haven't used yet. So hopefully that can help use those sources to see what your rent should be. Yeah,
for me, the answer is stop relying on apps. I mean, if we get too, I don't want to say lazy, but I can't think of a better word yet. I don't have enough coffee. We become Zillow, right? What did Zillow do wrong? It relied on its algorithm too much. It didn't have the human touch. Pick up the phone and call a property manager. Try to rent your unit in your market and see what rent is, right? You have a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. Go try to rent one. Go to Craigslist. Go to an active listing. Most of us invest in markets where there are other activities. Nobody I know of is investing in such a small town where you are the only option. Pick up the phone and talk to someone. Stop relying on applications. This whole, again, and I sold big data and artificial intelligence and all this other stuff. Stop it. This is a people business. Call somebody. That's my answer.
I like that. I always forget the property management route because I I self-manage, but that is one I need to start using. I'm definitely going to be using a property manager someday,
Yes, someday.
but not today.
But not today.
We're missing Matt.
Yeah.
I am too.
I am too. Yes.
Okay. Can I tell you? So from Eli, Dion, can you tell us more about your desire to scale up with more expensive rentals? What does the math look like? So the simplest math is if I'm spending $100,000 to purchase a property and I get a 10% return, I'm adding a $10,000 income net to my income next year.
Mhm.
If I buy a property that I pay $200,000 down on, I'm adding 20%. But also what I've realized is the more expensive properties I'm looking at, the yield is above 10%. I was looking at 10% duplexes for the last 4 or 5 years, and even bought one this year, and it basically just breaks 10%. November of 2020, I purchased a triplex that I paid more for. And I'm used to paying 150,000 a unit. I paid 175,000 a unit for it, and the return is 17%. So it's a more expensive property with a bigger return. So if I can find a more expensive property where my down payment is hundreds of thousands of dollars, because I'm using equity, I'm recycling capital, and I've got my savings from the income snowball. If I can find over $1 million and get better than a 10% return, I'm adding if it's $250,000 down, I'm adding $25,000 with my smallest return that I'm expecting, and I'm expecting the return to be better. So that's why I want to scale up.
Well, here's my answer, right? What do I talk about in my spreadsheet? The answer is on the far right column, and it's yield.
Yield.
You should always buy the highest yield. And in different markets, sometimes here's the deal. Grant Cardone, you're right in Dion's market. Bigger is better. Now, what does that mean? It means he gets a higher yield on his money. If you could put 100 grand down and make 10%, and you have the option to put 250K down and make 15%, 15% is bigger. Put it, I mean, if you have the option and you have the capital, obviously you have to be able to sign the deal, but it is really, really that simple. And I do it
sorry, I follow the yield too. That triplex I was looking at during that live session the other day wasn't a bigger deal.
Yeah.
But the yield was so high. The size doesn't really matter. I'm just trying to say, I've been saying the whole time, I wish my properties cost more and the yield scaled. So, so that it's factual, I'm actually trying, because the hardest part as an investor is as you're saving, deals will come up.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, that if it's a good deal, I'll look at it. If it's a great deal, I'm going to jump on it.
Yeah.
And then push down the road the larger deal.
Yeah.
So
it's always about yield, folks. We have plans, we have visions. What makes it all three of us unique is we tell people what we're doing. We also tell people what we plan to do, but things change, right? And I actually have a question for you before we go to the next one. You brought up something, I think 2 weeks ago. I don't know where it went, so I wanted to ask. There was a 6-property duplex seller financing. What's going on there?
Yes. So I believe that's going to be a courtship. It's an owner in his 80s that's looking to find a way out.
Got it. So
I've just started the conversation of, hey, before you put it on the MLS, here's how a seller financing would look. And so I think it's going to be a several month, hopefully sooner, thing. And I will definitely keep you updated on that because I'm excited. It's in a new market. I don't want to say where because everybody will look out for anybody who owns duplexes and I'll have more competition.
No,
but so I'm excited about that.
Yeah. So let's talk about it. Because again, the part of doing all of this is once you do your buy box, you get going, it's amazing it's like what you focus on, you see, and it's amazing how deals could be attracted to you. Right. So let's talk about seller financing. Right. What makes this thing unique? Again, I'm just going to guess based. Oh, look at that. The lumberjack. Can we hear him?
You can, can't you?
Oh, look at
in
that.
Time too.
We're in sync now. Oh, this is awesome.
9th grade dropout makes it happen.
Welcome back. So we're talking about seller financing.
Yes,
just
sir.
to catch up. Okay. This is awesome. So
in the future, this is perfect. We should do it exactly like this. And the original thing that is carrying the bandwidth, you can put up the image of the 3 amigos.
Oh yeah, just put it
as the background. Yep.
Consider it done.
You guys are awesome. All right. So now I feel so much better. I feel complete.
Yes. The whole point of this morning was Matt spent this whole week figuring out how to get this to happen.
You guys are awesome.
Yeah.
So
good stuff.
so seller financing, because again, you can find an owner that's owned it for a long time. I've told people I'm actually doing marketing where I'm spending $1,000 a month. I'm using PropStream to generate a list. I'm marketing directly to owners that own more than 10 years. You happen to stumble across somebody who, how long have they owned it? You know?
They're all paid off. He's in his 80s, so it's
So let's call it 20, 30 years. He's now tired, right? It's actually funny. One of the stories in my book was about somebody in their 70s selling them off and doing seller carry. And how did it stumble across your path? How did the warm lead come about?
So I'm networking in a new area because we're putting in a truck driving school campus. So anybody who follows my content, you now know where I'm shopping. And I was talking to the agent, and I just share everything you do. I actually told the agent he has rentals and he self-manages and he property manages for other people. And there's some weird rule in Idaho where if you have more than a certain number of rentals, you have to have a real estate license. Didn't know that. Don't know if it's true. Just
Really?
that's what I got out of the conversation. So I'd have to verify that. But letting everybody know what you're doing is how that happened. He came back and said, I know a guy.
I know
and then
a
I said,
guy,
great,
yeah.
Here's my email. This is what my email looks like. I sent off the email with, you can keep getting payments. You don't have to get a big capital gains hit. You carry the note that you can sell. And like went through the whole thing.
Yeah.
And so that's where we're at now. We're setting up time to talk.
Sweet. Yeah. Awesome. Very cool. Very, very cool. All right. Let's bring back the lumberjack. You tried to do some seller finance deals this last 6 months, I think, right?
Yeah, I sucked at it. It's horrible.
Tell everybody why.
So yeah, like the biggest issue that I had in doing those seller financing deals was the agent couldn't convey anything.
Yeah, you were playing hopscotch or telephone, right?
Exactly. I got boxed out. She's like, no, I'll just interface with them. I was like, listen, you're gonna get paid. That's not the problem. Like,
Right.
we'll make sure you get paid. And everything that was conveyed, then I paid to set up a CPA appointment for the tenant or for the owner because they had these two buildings right next to each other and they didn't actually have an accountant. They had always done their own accounting work.
Oh, okay.
So I said, so they're like, well, we're not even really sure how this works. And so I wrote out a nice long email and it was beautifully crafted in my own opinion, clearly not.
Yeah, clearly effective.
Yeah, clearly. Yeah, exactly. So so I will not be giving advice on how best to shave either.
Yeah, exactly. Don't know how. 20
yeah,
years, don't know how.
Exactly. So we put everything together for these folks, and then I paid for the CPA appointment. That was $280 for them to go in and sit with the CPA. CPA then spent some time with them. And then I called the CPA. She's like, well, I can't share a ton. I was, yeah, totally understand, totally get it. And I said, well, you did bring up the fact that they basically have an asset. The note is an asset.
Yeah.
She's like, I never thought of that. And I'm like, oh, freaking, this is not.
That's why I hand walked them through. I'd like, here's the email with all the points I want to touch on.
Yeah. Like, and that was a crazy thing is, so I did that with the agent.
Right.
But the problem was, so everyone should learn from my mistake. You need to be talking to the people who own it. You can't be, even though I set that up for the CPA, I never talked to them. Even though I set up everything and gave everything to the real estate broker, that was why I lost that deal. Now, at the end of the day, I got a much better deal 8 weeks later, but that one still hurts. And I still will have to drive past that property about 3 times a week, which really totally completely bums me out. The usual.
I love that. I love that.
But Mike, you and I have talked about it kind of off camera before, which is we think that the next biggest wave of deals is going to be seller financing and sub-2 deals. That's going to be that's the whole next market that's coming. And so in truthfulness, I am busting tail trying to make sure that I have good processes in place for the next time I find that deal. And know right up front that if the broker isn't willing to introduce me to them, then I'm just going to walk. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense because I'm going to lose.
Yeah. Every seller. So I've done 15, maybe.
That's crazy.
Somewhere between 15 and 20 seller finance deals. Some short term. For me, short term, just so everybody knows, is 5 years. I always try for 30 years. Right. That's my standard offer. I've done more than half at 30 years. The other half are kind of 10 and 5 years. Right. 5 years make me really nervous unless it's a house.
Yeah, agreed.
Just because 5 years goes by so fast, right? Dion's
Yeah.
famous saying, you're going to be alive in 5 years. There's
Yep.
nothing. The first 5-year deal I did was on an apartment building. Boy, that was
Boy.
stressful.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
18 units, bad condition. It took 3 years to kind of recycle the tenants. I'm like, that 5-year cliff is coming.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
it better be. Thank God rates went down. But yeah, it's something to watch. I don't think I would do I'll say it again. I would
I
not
was just
do
going
it.
to say that deal
5 years.
today.
I would
Yeah.
do it 5 years, 10-year minimum, 10-year minimum.
So to help anybody who's watching the video this far in with the tech issues that we've had, I'd like to say thank you.
Yep.
If you would like a copy of my email that I submit with my offer, I'm going to put my email in the chat. Email me and I will send you a copy of what I do.
There you go. I like it. All right. So where are we on the questions, Dion? I think you're in charge of this.
Okay, we had just passed my chat moved because I said something. That's the hardest part with lives is every time someone comments, it skips up. I wish it,
you. Yeah.
and you didn't do that and you could just scroll down.
Where are we?
It was
I think
the last question was about me. There we go. Okay, so
go ahead.
good morning, Andrew, retrainer. That's good news. Thanks, guys. I'll reach back out to Matt again. Invest to wealth. I find more up to current rent in property management companies listings. There you go.
Yeah.
Know thyself first. Why are the MLS comps lower than outside sources? Are they stale in this hot market? So MLS comps, that would be, I think a Mike or either one of you question.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the reason the MLS comps are lower, and I believe he's talking about rents again, is because MLS is not a rent-based system, right?
That's right.
There to sell homes. It's not the cleanest data. It's not updated as regularly. It's certainly not daily activity. MLS was never meant to be a place to source rents. Don't go there.
Right. And Mike, I want to take out something else you said. Stop looking at stupid freaking apps.
Yes. Talk to
honest
somebody.
to God, talk to people. Come on, you're not growing your network if you're not talking to people. You have to grow your network. You have to grow your network. You have to.
In
That
my
is a
course,
must.
yeah. In my course, what is it? Is it? I think it's 2 people a week.
Yeah.
Take the challenge. Meet 2
Yeah.
new people a week. Never stop. Never think about that. I've been doing this 20 years. Now I'm not always as diligent these days, but just think you're going to be doing this, to Dion's point, in 5 years. 5 years times 52 is 260 weeks. If you met 2 people a week, you would have 500 people in your network.
That's right.
That is gold. 500
right.
people that know your buy box, know what you're looking for, so you can get a seller finance deal just like Dion, because he told people what he's looking for.
Yeah,
Right.
I've been telling people I want a really good deal too, and no one's come my way. So
I also every now and then I'll
people
do
just
a
like Dion
Facebook
more.
post. Sorry, Matt. Go ahead.
You're good. You're good. No, you're good.
Every now and then I'll do a Facebook post that says, "Hey, this is what I'm looking for. This is the area I look in. If you bring me a deal and I buy it, I'll give you $500."
Yeah.
Like, just let people know. Not only am I telling everybody what I do, but I would reward somebody who helps me. And a gentleman named Matthew has sent me several deals, and I haven't closed on any of them yet. But when I do,
$100.
definitely going to get it.
There you go.
So, and then from Retrainer, I'm going to start tracking current rent prices daily, just like your buy box. It's a new tab on your spreadsheet. Yeah.
Yes, it absolutely is. This is the best and greatest time ever. Somebody posted in the Three Amigos Facebook group last night that they had a unit coming up. You are doing yourself a huge disservice if you aren't doing 3 things. 1, looking at all the websites that are out there, like the Craigslist, the apartments.com, all of those for current rents. 2, talking to other rental agents in your area. What would you list this for? This is what I'd like to know. You don't have to hire them on the spot. You can ask them that question. Just say, okay, let me think about that and I'll get back to you. But then get back to them and say, I've decided to list it myself. And in the future, if there's an opportunity for us to work together, we certainly will. The third thing is you need to be calling your housing authority, and you also need to be finding out in your county who actually was in charge of COVID funding. In many cases, they actually have people that have been displaced because of COVID or because of the sale of the house. The barrier of entry is much lower now with the second set of funding, and now soon to be third set of funding that was just approved or that is going to be approved in Washington. that is another 170 billion with a B dollars that they are putting into housing. Okay, so this is something that everybody must do. You must call and find out who is controlling those funds in your county and then for your town, because I've worked with the county. I've talked to them a number of times, and they have a different rent rule than housing does. And it's much higher. It's actually over market because they're trying to replace families that otherwise wouldn't have homes. So
Right.
it's well over market.
Most areas are calling that the emergency housing voucher from COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And in my area, it's about $150 more than area average. And what they would pay for Section 8 right now is hundreds of dollars lower. So it actually corrects the gap and then passes it up. And so talking about area average rents, yes, it should be a line item in your daily search, because property prices and interest rates are only parts of the equation. To get to the yield, you need to know what your area average rents are.
That's right.
And imagine if somebody started doing this 5 years ago and they learned the rents in their area and they were going up about 5% every year. In 2021, they would have lost out on deals, because in most areas we've seen rent increases over 20%.
Yeah.
So you can get the right yield with rent increases that have already happened. We're not projecting forward thinking we hope they're going to keep going, but the ones that we know that have happened because we've been watching the market every day, checking those sources, tells us which deals we can go after.
Correct.
Okay, next thing's down from Larry, asking me, is your next $1 million property you're seeking expected in a Class C neighborhood like in your other deals? Yes. I prefer Class C. I don't ever want to go Class A, B, or D. I think there'll be more tenants in an economic downturn because B and A can move down to C. So a fourplex in a Class C area with 3 bedrooms each side is going to cost me more than $1 million in my market. So that's my goal, to find one like that.
I concur. I like that. Yeah, I don't like Class A. I leave that to the brand new developers and overspending and the crazy rents that they have to get. And like you were saying, Dion, that's something I've always believed. I mean, even in this economy, but the crazy thing is in my area, even in this economy, those A-class developers aren't sold out on rents. They're not fully rented. They're in the 80s for occupancy. And it's because they are way overpriced. I mean, we're talking exactly for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath apartment in a larger building. They are, with 3 parking spaces, they're just under $4,000 a month.
Wow.
It's unbelievable the amount of money that they are trying to get for some of those units. And it's add on. And so they, I was looking, now I see them even advertising on Craigslist. I mean, a $3,800 apartment on Craigslist. Yeah. It's not Manhattan. Yeah. It's not Back Bay in Boston. I mean, it's just, but they are listing it. They are available. But to Dion's point, I absolutely agree. And this is what you and I saw, right? Back in 08, 9, 10, people that were losing their houses, that, that was the only reason that their credit got destroyed, but they actually still had a good job. They still had a W-2. Okay. Like, we can go through that process.
Yeah. Again, that's the crazy thing about last crisis, because the debt structure, the debt was just bad. It wasn't the asset. People don't realize, because they've been only looking at this for 5 years. People routinely had payments at like $1,600, which they fully could afford because they didn't lose their job. But after 2 years, it went from a 1.9% to a 7.9% with only 28-year AM versus 30. The payment went from $1,600 to $3,300, and like, well, can't make that payment.
And $1,600 they were making easily. Even $2,000 they're making easily, but $3,300 it's like, no, that you'd more than doubled.
And that's why you won't see a foreclosure crash to this prices. That's why all these idiots don't understand, and why we didn't saw less than 1% of 4 million homes go back to the bank. We told you that was coming. The foreclosure wave never happened because the loans were 98% fixed and people could afford them.
I'm still waiting on all that inventory.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Next comment down is from Better Home Rental. I use Mike's buy box plan and track all other consumer rental options in my buy box area and find real rental values.
Nice.
So
exactly.
Absolutely.
Do the work.
Yeah. Yep. Sparty, happy Thanksgiving. Invest to wealth. Smash the like button. Yes. Look at that. We all forget that when we're the ones talking.
I never asked for that.
That's true.
Shame on
I always try to come into your guys' lives and say, smash the like button.
Thank you.
So Buzz Valley Bee Farm. We'll have to catch the replay from here. Okay. Have a good day. Thanksgiving, everyone. I'm thankful for this group working on your first deal with 15% yield. Awesome.
Oof, that's awesome.
Woo, nice.
Know thyself first. If you have funds for one more deal this year, would you jump on anything above average, or will you wait till a great deal comes along? Me personally, I would check with your CPA to see what your position is and see if a write-off is going to have an impact big enough to justify going from a great deal to an above average deal. Personally, I would always go for the great deals, but check with your CPA. You might be in a unique situation where it makes sense to get more write-offs this year.
Yeah, I like that. I think generally speaking right now, I'm only doing great deals.
I mean, honestly, every single time I think I've bought the only great deal on the market, another 2 weeks later, another great deal comes along. So, I mean,
Aw.
like, yeah, no, I'm not complaining, but this is what I'm saying is that I think that is the hardest discipline to learn though, right? Is
Yes.
when to know when, especially when, admittedly, Mike, we're in a little bit of a different position just based on the amount of cash flow that we create.
Yeah.
That quite frankly, if a duplex pops up, it's not a thing for us. It's just like, okay, we can do the duplex. It's a great deal. What's really interesting is that, I think that for those that are just a little bit, just getting on the ladder, I think that, in that particular case, I would never be in a rush to do a just above average deal.
Yeah. What I would tell you on this question is that as a buyer, I don't let the calendar affect me. I let the calendar affect the seller.
Yes.
Right. I wouldn't do it.
Yes.
Like in the early part of the question, would I do a deal this year? As the buyer, the calendar year means nothing. To Dion's point, there may be some tax subtleties that make it appealing. But I always let time be a seller issue, because obviously I want to extract a discount because of that.
Yeah, and I'm coming at real estate from the business perspective of running a CDL school. And I know that this time of year, it is a zero-sum game, looking at the full balance sheet going,
Sure.
What assets can we acquire by the end of the year that will impact taxes, how employee bonuses, all that.
Are we going to buy another truck?
Literally trucks. We're buying 3 trucks, 2 trailers. Yeah, so there's a list this year.
Yeah, totally understand.
Cool. Know thyself first. Yay. The lumberjack is back. Awesome.
Here I am.
We're all at it early. Touchy-feely lumberjack.
Yeah, the softer side of lumberjack.
Thanks, Rob. Matthew. Oh, snap. These 3 getting dangerous with this technology stuff. Yep. Blame that on Matt. That's not something
Yeah, not me.
Matthew, happy Thanksgiving. There's my email. Huge thanks. Yep. And I will share that email, share that info. And I have, so here's a shout out to anybody here. I have shared my spreadsheet on how I track my business with several people through email. If you are in the 3 Amigos Facebook group or in the One Rental at a Time private Facebook group, please share that there. Like, I haven't figured out how to get it. Somebody's sent me screenshots on how to do it, but I don't have a 10-year-old around anymore to show me how to run that kind of stuff. So if I've sent it to you, please share it with everybody. Sean, where do you each see the real estate market in 3 to 5 years? We'll start with Matt.
I will still be buying. I will probably not be selling. I think that for the next year, I think it's going to, I think you'll see more inventory. I think you'll see less affordable inventory. I think that, I'll still be acquiring. I think the market in the next 3 to 5 years is going to be more expensive. And I think when I say more expensive, I don't just mean values up. I think your payments are all going to be up. So I think you're going to be getting less for more based on just how things are going financially for the country at this point and the policies that they're going to have in place. And frankly speaking, the Powell renomination, even though he's the one who's navigated a lot of this, his focus continues to be on jobs. And that is what broke things in the early 70s for the country. And so I think that they're going to have to make adjustments and not be focused as much on jobs and be more focused on inflation. So I see rates significantly higher. I see values of properties higher based on supply demand. And so I think that deals will get, largely speaking, I think they will get worse. That's where I see things in 3 to 5 years. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, so I want to answer this question kind of in 2 steps because my answer is different. Are we talking residential, which is 4 plexes
Yeah,
and
fair.
below, or commercial 5 units and above? So 4 units and below, I think Matt's pretty much onto it. Prices are higher, rates are higher, affordability is lower, and affordability is my number 1 metric. Again, affordability, we did a show on this a couple of weeks ago. It was 42 in Fresno. If I was going to put a number on it, it's probably 30. So lower, but not crazy low, right? Not 20. And if you don't know what I mean, go watch that video. It explains it pretty well. So residential, I think, I think, and the other thing I think happens in 3 to 5 years is we've had a business cycle, meaning we've had a recession. Is it sharp and fast? Is it slow and long? I don't know, right? That's the big bugaboo out there. Does good old Uncle Powell have to raise rates fast, thus causing a sharp and steep but shallow or short recession? Or does he close his eyes and say jobs, 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 jobs? And it's, really, I don't know. It's going to be fun. So I think residential doesn't have a crash. I think it's just a slowdown. I think we have seen 70% of the appreciation for the decade in the first 2 years. But that doesn't mean the next 8 years are negative. It just means it's flat, right?
Right.
Then there's commercial, 5 and above. This is 3 to 5 years is the perfect time frame to see bad operators and bad deals blow up.
Yeah.
Some of again, I'm an accredited investor. I've been an accredited investor for 10 years, and I see the deals. I have not seen a good LP, limited partner opportunity in 2 years. And some of the most dangerous and toxic deals I have seen have come across my plate in the last 90 days. If your debt structure is all variable in 1 or 2 or 3 years, and you're assuming rent increases of 4 or 5% for multiple years, you're a moron. And I've seen them. And I'm like, there are people doing these deals as 50K, 70K that have already lost the money and they don't know it.
Mike, real quick, can I just add to that too, which is they're also assuming 99% occupancy.
Oh, it's just stupid assumption. Yeah, that's true today. It won't be tomorrow. Yeah.
No.
So yeah, I see pain. And again, not all pain, right? There are some markets and some multifamily deals that would be great, but in general, the bad deals will blow up in 3 to 5 years, and I want to be there to buy them because I'm known as a 1 rental at a time guy. But again, I bought 50 units, 0 down, 48 units, 0 down, 2011, 12, because I was there and I was a proven operator. So I look forward to doing that again.
God willing.
I agree with both of you guys. I don't see me playing in the 5 units or more. I don't like the debt structure. I like the 30-year fixed rate debt. So if
I have a guy for that, by the way,
that option comes up, I've said I might look into it then. So the thing to take away from this is all 3 of us are saying, if you're in the 4 units or less, the longer you take to buy, the more you're going to pay.
Absolutely, no question.
Right.
Yeah.
Jennifer, go ahead. So
No, I agree.
Jennifer, happy Thanksgiving to everyone and their families. You too.
Yeah.
Tim, thanks. John Williams, happy Thanksgiving. 3 Amigos. Larry, what factors lead you to believe that seller financing and subject to deals will be the best? Does that mean conventional deals will be less lucrative or fewer transactions? That was a Mike statement.
Yeah. So basically what leads to this opinion is I believe we are in a flat market, and I'll explain why that's important shortly. And I think the business cycle is real. We will have another recession. So here's why that's important, why those 2 things work together. I believe the next business cycle, there are going to be people that bought in the last year or 2 that can't sell, meaning they have no equity, right? Because selling a home is expensive. It's 6 to 8%, depending on where you are at. And if you put 3.5% down and have had 0 growth, you're stuck. And I believe, so A, you can't sell. So you have to get creative. You can either let it foreclosed, do cash for keys, deed in lieu, all this stuff that was common last time. Or you can work with a guy like me who's like, wow, you got a 2.8% 30-year mortgage. That's kind of sexy. And rents are up. Yeah, that's kind of sexy. So I believe they're going to be able to do a lot of subject to deals. So that explains why creative financing will be a thing. And then as far as conventional, there will be people that have to sell that can't sell, and that will just keep inventory lower. So that's what I think. Again, if the business cycle doesn't crack or we don't have a recession, and if real estate goes up 15% a year forever, then people will just list and sell. I just don't think that's likely.
I took a note of the time so I can come back and get a soundbite out of a video clip of Mike going, "That's kind of sexy." That's going to be in several videos in the next few weeks.
Oh, man.
So the next one down, Terry, thoughts on house hacking and ADU, renting out the house, but living in the casita. Matt?
Yes, absolutely. Oh man, I love that. Ashley made the mistake of asking me, my wife made the mistake of asking me if I'd be willing to house hack again. And I was like, I'll start packing now. She goes, no. I just was interested in your opinion. I go, just so we can not listen to it? Like, let's do it. I think it's a great idea. She's like, forget I asked. Yes, absolutely. Anything that you can do until you're ready to, like, anything that you can do to have the smallest possible financial nut that you can possibly have is always the way to go, because you build. And it's funny because I see people that build, and then they get to maybe 4 or 6 and then they stop. That's cool. No judgment. You're still going to retire a multimillionaire. And you can still, like, some people, what was really interesting, and I really appreciate Dion, that Dion set this up in the Three Amigos Facebook group, was he actually put in there some questions like, do you have a freedom number? What was really interesting was a lot of people didn't, but the ones that did, God bless one guy, he said 1.625 million. I want to see that math. Yeah. But the cool thing is that a lot of people in there were like $6,000 a month. It's like, do you have any idea how easy it is to get to $6,000 a month? If you're doing the work and the daily discipline and understanding your market and taking the steps and working some nights and working some weekends, in 10 years,
it's right there.
You are going to have that in 10 years. I mean, yeah, it's not 1 year. It's not Amazon drop shipping, but it is absolutely attainable. And that means if you're starting in your early 20s, in your early 30s, work can be optional. Or you can do what you love and get paid to do what you love. Like, these, just such opportunity.
So on the house hacking and the casita, 3 quick things. First, it's addicting to live somewhere for free or to get paid to live there. So keep it up, because me and Matt both would like to do it forever. If you have a spouse, maybe, concede on that a little bit. But second, the benefit to the casita or the ADU or the granny flat, mother-in-law house, whatever they want to call it, is that is a single family home purchase. If you purchase a duplex, triplex, or quad right now, FHA is 3.5. But most lenders for conventional are going to want more than that 5% for the small multifamily. Looking at a house with an ADU, and you can call it a casita, but sometimes those are 2 4-bedroom houses. It doesn't have to be a smaller second one. It just, I've got a friend that bought one right up the street here in Tacoma, and it's 2 full houses. Single family house lending, because one is considered an ADU. The second or the third thing is you eliminate a lot of competition. Single family home buyers don't want a second house because they're not looking for tenants. And most investors are looking for small multifamily. So in your search criteria with your agent, I actually include the colloquialisms for your area. In my area, it's ADU, DADU, granny flat, mother-in-law house. Those 4 are in the searches just to make sure that those pop up, because we can't control what the seller's going to list it at, or the selling agent even thinks it's called. But it is a great strategy because you eliminate competition, you get single family lending options, and I believe everybody should house hack at some point in some way. Even if it's like Jeremy Kirkwood, who comes with his 8 kids and buys a single family house, lives there for a year, then buys a single family house and lives there for a year. He's not sharing living space. He doesn't have multiple units. He's turning single family houses into rentals. using house hacking just to get owner financing, better
That's right.
rate, better down or lower down payment. So me and Matt, we all agree. Mike, we'll agree. House hack the casita.
Yeah.
Rob, waiting for signatures on a deal in San Diego. That means you're close to closing. Awesome.
That's very good.
Better home rental. What do you think are the positives and negatives of using an IRA to buy great deals in 22 and 23 versus bank? Thanks. I'm so anti-private or retirement accounts. I'll let you guys answer.
So the only way that I would answer that is, so I'll be very simple about it. I believe that money from your IRA will be available, and I think bank money will be much harder to get at a reasonable rate.
Yeah. So I know lots of people that use their IRAs. It's actually, there's one of the bonus sections in my course talks about IRAs and how to use it. There are a lot of rules. It's possible. You also need to know that Anna Kelly has brought this channel, One Rental at a Time, updates that the rules may change. There may be percentage ownership, like you can't own more than 50% or things of that nature. So you got to watch stuff like that. But much like Dion, for me, too hard, too many loopholes. Life's hard enough. I cashed out and, went ahead. Not financial advice, just what I did.
Right. It's not financial advice. Just, I hate the idea of money being trapped away where you have barriers between you and money that you earned, even if there are tax benefits. And the whole idea of retirement accounts is hoping I retire broke in a lower tax bracket, hoping taxes don't go up in the future, because have you met government? And take that money and put it to work in a rental where you get cash flow now to save, spend, or invest. Appreciation on multiples of what you're investing because we use leverage. Principal pay down where the tenants pay off the loan. And with the tax benefits of real estate, and you guys might be at a point where you're paying taxes, but in 10 years, I haven't paid a penny on rental profit. I still have enough depreciation and write-offs to where I haven't paid any of that. To me, it would be worth emptying a retirement account, paying the 10% penalty. And I hate to use the word lucky, but luckily the pandemic happened. And last year we were able to empty out up to $100,000 without the penalty. So I took advantage of that. So if you find a way to put your IRA to work in rental properties and you understand the hoops you have to jump through, and that legislation could change, even though it didn't currently, to take away your ability to do that, then go for it. Matthew, 3-1 in the city I own. Most of my rentals went from $750 a month in 14 to $1,200 a month.
Yeah.
And still going up, about to list another unit for $1,250. This house was $850 in 2017. I would list it for 14 for at least 2 weeks.
Yes.
Before coming down to what you think it should be right now. I was at 1130, listed at 18, had 12 applicants, went with one, should have listed it at 22.
Oh,
and then 2 weeks later, come down. So I'm learning that lesson as I go. I would go higher than what you think. I don't know if you guys agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
had- Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead. No, go ahead, Mike.
I was going to say, yeah, I mean, in this market, the only other wrinkle is, I don't know where you are in the country, right? Some parts of the country are really cold and snow and all of that. I don't happen to invest in that market, but you may have weather things that make that more difficult choice. But yeah, if you are in California or Washington, yeah, I'd go higher. In 2 weeks, you can lower it. But yeah, I think that's good advice.
It's kind of cold here in Washington, not quite, Wisconsin, Canada type weather. But I actually see more demand in the winter because it's supply and demand. And a lot of people structure their leases to where the leases end in the summer between school years. So there's just fewer places available in the winter here.
Yeah, I like that.
Very, very much so, for sure.
Ryan, happy Thanksgiving. Josh, I immediately found a realtor in the area we are moving that we like. She's sending me listings through One Home. Have you guys used this site, and should I have multiple realtors in a given area? Matt.
Yes. Yes, you should absolutely have multiple realtors in a given area. I have not used One Home.
Don't know what that is.
I don't know what that is. And then Matthew Paris, real quickly on the rental thing. Dion and Mike are both right. Overprice it. I had a unit that used to historically rent out for $900. When I took over the building in 2017, it was $600. I got it all the way up to $900. I just rented that unit out for $1,750.
Oh my God. Inflation.
So the official term for
Inflation
that
is
is
transitory.
that doesn't suck.
No,
It doesn't.
Right.
that made me giggle a little bit. like a schoolgirl. I loved it. I was like, oh,
That doesn't.
and Ashley was like, was that our daughter? I was like, no, that was me.
That's how I am with that duplex that went to 18 each side. My 10% return was at 1130 each side. So
Wow.
Yeah.
I need to do the math on what the return on that is now, but I'm always looking at return for first year
Yeah.
Yeah.
because down the road it's just going to be amazing anyways.
I literally had a couple of properties move into the over 100% return on capital yearly. And so I just did that spreadsheet actually about 3 weeks ago. And I had to keep on rerunning the numbers. And I was like, the math is the math. Like, it's just math.
It's just
And
math. That's your line.
It is. It's just math. And I'm like rerunning the numbers. Finally, I was just like, I sent it over to my commercial banker. And I said, is this right? Am I looking at this right? She's like, holy cow. Yeah. And I was
Nice.
like, all right. So literally I am refinancing those 3 properties because there is no need for that much income on those 3 properties. There just isn't.
So Josh, on the realtor thing, this is my order of operations for realtors. If you are a home buyer and you are going to use an agent's time for going and viewing properties and answering a million questions, I would sign an exclusivity agreement and protect that agent's time. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But as an investor where I want auto searches set up and I'm going to do the filtering, and the only time that agent's going to deal with me is when I'm making an offer and they have the potentiality to get a payment, I'll work with multiple agents. I let them know, let them choose. I've never had one say no. But just in case you run into one who's just convinced they have to have that agreement, then you move on to the next agent. Agents search the MLS very differently. I have an email with copy and paste. This is a criteria I'm looking for in this footprint. I send it to at least 3 agents, have my auto searches set up. And in 10 years, one time have they sent me the same property that I was interested in within a 24-hour period. They do send me ones when they sit on the market for 3-4 weeks, when that was a thing. But when they come out and I want to see it within a day to be quick on it, I've only seen it one time where they were within 24 hours of each other. So even if I was an agent with full access to the MLS, I would have 3 agents with auto searches set up. Nathan, what is one thing each of you would go back and tell yourselves as you were starting real estate? I'll start with Mike.
So I guess the first thing I've been pretty clear on is I should have started earlier. Again, I've actually done the work, right? So I've been in one market the whole time. So I know it from 2001 on, but again, I went back and looked at myself in the mirror and said, what would happen if I started in 92 or 93? Conservatively, I would have been retired by the age of 31. For those that know my story, I wasn't retired until I was 45. That kind of pisses me off. Kind of annoys me. So again, I got high on the hog. I lifestyle creep. Again, back to the earlier casita question. There are so many things you could do to live for free, right? Cheat code to wealth. I should have been retired by 31. And I wasn't. So that kind of annoys me.
In your defense, I interviewed Cody Davis, who I recommend having on your channel. He's amazing. He's like 21, 80 something. He had 30 units when I interviewed him like a couple months ago. He's just doing seller for, he's killing it. 21-year-old when I interviewed him with over 30 units. And you know what his statement was? I wish I started sooner.
Great.
That hits everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, Matt. And what would you tell yourself if you go back when you were starting real estate?
That I would probably, honestly, I couldn't start much younger. I wasn't any younger. I wouldn't have been able to legally sign the contract. Because I started really early 20s, kind of like Cody. But I would say the biggest thing that I would tell myself is I would have done a better job at market selection. The market that I chose was the wrong market. It showed a decent return, but the part of the market, because I chose a city, I chose Manchester, New Hampshire. That's where I started after I did my condo hack in the city. And then I bought a house that I was going to fix up and then basically just sell or rent out, depending on what the numbers look like. When I bought my first real multifamily, when I was looking at it, I should have picked better neighborhoods. I didn't understand the importance of the area. And obviously the first 3 rules of real estate: location, location, location. That was the thing that probably got me the most, because I bought that property probably in 04, 05. And I had 2 years that were okay as the neighborhood transitioned. And then the crash happened. And then it did not, it stopped transitioning. It started going backwards. And all of a sudden I couldn't get good renters. I couldn't, and, you know, the building really started to deteriorate. The numbers started to look bad. And it took me, let's see, 05. I sold that building in 18 or 19. So it took me 13 or 14 years to get out of that building because I always wanted to sell that building, or those two buildings. Actually, I always wanted to sell them. You can actually look them up, 331 Pearl Street in Manchester, New Hampshire. I always wanted to sell that building. I had to keep on, you know, improving it for the city and the officials and how they have inspectors out there and how they do certificates of compliance. I would have understood that process a lot better before I started investing in that city, because when it was all said and done and I walked, it wasn't that I still walked with a check for 80 or 90 grand, and that was fine. But it took me 13, 14 years to get that. And the opportunity cost was off the charts, because I ended up getting into my market that I'm in now in 07, right around the crash. And that's what's really helped propel my business the most, was picking the right market. Because now it's, you know, year after year, there's amazing growth in prices, in population. It's killer. So I would absolutely say area.
Cool. If I can go back and talk to myself and teach before I started real estate, I have a video where I do that. It's called "I Wish I Had More Debt." And at the end of it, I give myself this advice. This was the advice I gave myself. I'm talking to myself 10 years ago. I would really tell myself two things. I told myself, never date a coworker. That was the most important advice I could give myself. But if I could go back and talk to myself now, before I got started in real estate, I would say, educate yourself. I jumped into real estate thinking I'm going to replace my income and just jump into real estate with no education, no books, no podcasts, no audiobooks. 13 months in boot camp, Marine Infantry School, MOS training to become a Marine, 6-month police academy to become a police officer, 4-year degree to become an appraiser. I mean, whatever the industry you're trying to get in, people educate themselves to do. And I was just going to be a real estate investor. So my first year sucked. No lease, rented on a handshake. Rent was late, didn't care, no late charges. So rent became never. Made all those mistakes until I started educating myself and looking for things like people who are watching this now, going to one rental at a time, getting in the course, going to our YouTube channels and being here for these kind of conversations. And just one of us today is going to say something that resonates with somebody and changes their complete path on how they invest. And that person didn't even know what they were looking to learn today. You have to be experiencing things like this for our brains to develop. And that's what I would have done before jumping into real estate. Education. Know thyself first. Mike has recently been talking about the next 2 years being tougher. What does that really mean for us? Lesser deals to come, financing becoming tougher, cooler market? Mike?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think there's a couple of things when I'm saying that. So realize that what I'm really talking to is the people not doing the work. The last 2 years, and you've heard Omar and I say this as one of my experts, that the real estate market made you. If you were a real estate agent the last couple of years, all you had to do is get a listing and sit back and wait. There's been a lot of money made by flippers, a lot of money made by wholesalers, a lot of made by owners of homes, simply because they owned them. The market made them. When you have 16% appreciation for the freaking country, there's a lot of equity made. What I'm trying to say by this, it's getting harder, is we're going to go into the real estate slowdown. And when you have a real estate slowdown and you have a bunch of idiots who didn't do the work, who overpaid and were one time bailed out by the market, who were not bailed out, and they have all these carrying costs and all these other things, there's a lot of people that are going to repeat my sins of 2001, where I lost 80% of my net worth because I got cocky, I got lazy, I didn't do the work. I'm saying things like the next 2 years are going to be harder because I'm trying to save someone's ass. One person out there is going to go, you know what? That guy's been right a few times. And he's telling me that he did this before and it kind of sucked. I might want to take some chips off the table. So I'm trying to be provocative on purpose. Now let's talk about the people that are doing the work. You are going to find sellers that are in some unique situations. We are going to find flippers that are upside down and they got to get out. So you can do a turnkey unit, right? There's just going to be more opportunities. What I think is going to happen the next 2 years, know thyself, is the people that do the work are going to be rewarded, and the people that don't do the work are going to lose their ass. Simply said.
Awesome.
Happy
Go ahead,
Thanksgiving.
Matt.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah. I mean, that's really it. I think yes, lesser deals. Yes. Financing becomes tougher. Yes. Different market, not necessarily cooler. I think that new construction is going to be very, very, very expensive and going to continue to remain very expensive. And as debt gets more expensive, new construction is going to be the first thing affected. And that, just like it does for units, where it pushes people down into older units, guess what? It's going to do the same thing with housing. It's going to push you back down into older houses out of new.
And I think the thing to take away is Mike has been saying that, and I consider myself a newer investor. I've been investing for about a little over 10 years, which means I didn't live through the last crash as an investor. So it's important for me to base a lot of my decisions watching people who've been investing longer, that have lived through those cycles. And when people like you start saying the next 2 years are going to be challenging, this is where I want to pay attention to things like rents are skyrocketing in 2021. Some people are going to make decisions thinking rents are going to skyrocket in 2022 and catch themselves on a plateau, losing money.
Yes.
Or if rents skyrocket, we benefit, but don't plan for it. Right. So Eli, based on my interpretation, California rent control only seems to apply to large multi-units and corporate entities. Is that accurate? My property is way under market, so I need to do a step function. So Mike probably has a better understanding of the rent control there. I know that some states, if you're owner occupying small multifamily, it doesn't apply if you don't have a certain number of units. And so if you can give the specifics of California, Mike.
Yeah, my understanding, California, given the current rules, and some of these were adopted after the fires we had last summer, it is actually duplexes and above. That was a surprise to me when I looked at the rules last year when they were instituted. Duplexes and above. The only way a duplex will not be included is if the owner lives in one of the units. In that case, a triplex and above. So no, this is not big. This is not corporate entities. All of my multifamilies, duplexes and above, have rent control, which in California is 5% plus inflation with a cap of 10%. That is why owners who are buying in California with leases drastically under should be buying on actuals, not futures, because it will be very, very difficult to get them up. And that's another reason why single family homes are awesome in California, because I can jack them 40% and there's no rent control. So that is my current understanding of the rules of the road.
Okay. And in your area, Matt,
No rent control.
how far out do you have to travel to find rent control? The
New
next
York,
state, right?
Yeah. California.
California.
New York. No, it's New York. It's honestly, it's New York. Actually, I think it might be Massachusetts as well. Massachusetts, just south of us. Because for us, we have not had an issue because I just told you, we're getting 70% more rent for a unit than we got last year.
Well, wages set rents, and we're seeing wage inflation, right?
Correct. Yep. Supply demand.
In Washington state, there's actually a revised code of Washington and RCW that says it is illegal to have rent control here. So the Kingdom of Seattle gets creative, and they say 6-month notification on a rent increase over a certain percent. If the tenant doesn't want to pay that, the owner has to pay to move the tenant. So it's a form of rent control.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say so.
Okay, and I think
France.
Know thyself. Can you elaborate on why pricing your rentals below market value is a good thing? So I'll start and then we'll go through you guys, because the binder strategy is basically to try to keep the rents below market average without having to do a rehab, without having to repair almost anything. That's the goal for me, is saving the cost and the time and the energy of doing a rehab. If I buy an empty place, I think I would do like Matt and Mike do, fix everything up, get market rents or above, because it's newer and fixed up and you can kind of be a trendsetter. But when I buy a place that has inherited tenants or existing tenants, or I have a tenant that's been in place for a while, when I'm setting rents and I have that binder strategy, my goal is to avoid a tenant turnover, avoid doing a rehab. So keeping the rents $50 or $100 below the area average saving myself $7,000 on flooring and paint is definitely math I'm okay with. And I'm lazy. So, well, how do you guys look at when you set your rents? I know, Mike, you use property manager. So,
Well, I mean, I'll say it this way. If the unit's vacant, go above market. We said that, I think 20 or 30 minutes ago. But yeah, every year I look at every property, the income statement. And without knowing their history, and if I were to strip away the addresses, the ones where I lose money had tenant turnover, especially houses. So yeah, if I could get a rent increase but keep it $50 below what it could be, and they don't move, that is an equation I like.
Matt?
Yeah. So in order to not Ken McElroy anybody, I literally own one single family home now. For investing. One.
Yeah.
I own
Show
one.
Go on.
I cannot tell you anything about because they don't work in my area. And so for me, all the time when a tenant moves out or when we have that turn, we always have another unit that's actually covering the mortgage. And so it might only be $200-300 a month. So from our perspective, anytime that when we buy a building and it's occupied, like I bought a 5-unit, all occupied. I made zero effort to get anybody out. I basically just said, yep, status quo for now. And as soon as the first one popped, boom, done. 60 days, we went through, we gutted the entire place, rent went from $750 to $1,250.
Nice.
And we spent maybe $8,000. And so now as we're going through that building and raising the rents, I'm more aggressive in raising the rents, but I will pick the next unit that I want to do by raising that price the most, because it's the most valuable to me to do next. So that's how I do it, based on A, not having rent control, and B, most importantly is I also don't want to get to the end of my journey like so many landlords do and saying, I took below market forever, and now I have a portfolio of a bunch of properties that haven't been rehabbed in 30 years. Because they will get crushed when it comes to actually going to market and actually selling something.
Yep.
So for me, you can actually get that rent, you can actually get that money, that a lot more money coming in. It's all about return on my capital. And so if I can put $7,000-8,000 into a unit, but I'm getting $300 and $400 or $500 more, that's only 2 years. And I'm not going to have to redo it for another 10 or 15 at least. So I'd rather do that work. I'd rather get my hands dirty, rather, put myself in a position to get over market rents. And then again, if I ever decide to sell that house, I don't have to rehab it before I sell it. And I also don't have to take a hit selling it as well, but it's dated, but clean, right? I don't have to do that. That's my view.
Cool. So Matthew, talking to Eli, as you understand it, multifamily is rent controlled in California. As Mike said, the only time there is an exception is if the owner lives in a duplex. Rob, how much time do we have on Dion's rented voice? We've been doing this a bit over an hour, but I'm not talking the whole time. So since it's broken up into three, I'm okay. Joey, happy Thanksgiving, y'all. Do you think Jeremy Powell retaining his position will keep mortgage rates fairly stable? Mike?
I actually think Jerome Powell staying in place means rates will go up longer or go up faster. Now, again, I think that's stable. So again, that word may mean something different to you. Jerome Powell, rates will be higher faster with Jerome Powell. Baynard, I think is her name. She was more dovish than Powell, which really freaked me out. So yeah, I think rates go up faster. Not crazy fast, but faster than Brainerd, whatever.
Okay, and then Matthew Paris withdrew a message, and I will spend the entire day wondering what that was and what I missed. Niece or Nessie? Niece, happy Thanksgiving. Nessie, thank you. Happy Thanksgiving, Nessie. Matthew Paris, Central Florida, just outside of suburbs of Orlando, 2-1 in the Orlando area is $1,600 a month.
Oh, yeah.
So 2 bedrooms, yeah. Yeah, the 2 bedrooms in my area are going for 16 to 18 now.
Yeah. What were they 5 years ago, Dion?
5 years ago, 12,
like 12,
maybe 11.
Yeah. Yep, same thing here. When I first bought something, so a 2-bedroom in my market, when I first bought here, a 2-bedroom was 750 to 800, and now it's 16 to 18. So it's more than double. But I have 30-year fixed debt, so I don't care.
Well, we do care. We love it. Like,
We love it.
That's
Yeah.
what we want, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. G Waters. Good morning and happy Thanksgiving, gentlemen.
Thank you.
And now Mary is going to make me wonder about 2 messages for the rest of the day. All right. Thankful for the experience and knowledge you all three share with the rest of us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for hanging out with us. Never date a coworker. That's good advice. And specifically, in a 10-year span, never date 9 of them.
No, jeez. Didn't learn the first time, I guess, huh?
Slow learner. Terry.
9? Oh my
Wow,
God.
this isn't live. I can edit this out later, right? You
Yeah.
guys are gonna let me edit this.
Nope, it's going out on my channel.
It's less than 1 a year. I don't feel terrible.
They were comparing notes on you. You know that, right?
Oh, I have images of that.
Oh my God.
Carrie, we need to rewind. Let's go back a minute. Just start that
That's
over.
awesome.
Wish I'd started 35 years ago, like I'd planned. We're all with you there. Matthew, what impact do you think the infrastructure bill and potentially the Build Back Better bill will have on inflation and home prices? We all know 3.7 trillion isn't really paid for, never is. Matt?
Yeah, so inflation is going higher, unless the deflationary thing that Dion and Mike and I talked about, certainly possible, but I think inflation is going to go markedly higher. I think that everyone's taxes are going up 100%. They're not 100% in value, but guaranteed. Everyone's taxes are going up. And I think that, just based on what I saw in the first part of the infrastructure piece, which was there's $170 billion in there for affordable housing. That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. Again, it's all demand. They're doing nothing for freaking supply.
Correct. Well, that's the issue that there always will be with Washington, is that they don't understand that you need to let the free market be the free market and stop picking winners and losers. And I think that what that translates to, largely speaking, is everything is going to get more expensive. That's what happens when you flood the money with a bunch of more, when you flood the market with a bunch more money and no new thing to get, no new housing, no new this, no new that. Guess what? The stuff that's out there is going to have a much bigger pull on demand. Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think the connection to housing and that question's kind of loose. What I would tell you is spilling another $1, $2, $3 trillion into an environment where we have constraints on commodities, we have constraints on labor, will drive prices up, wages drive rents, wages drive payments, payments drive prices. You can play it out. So the connection directly to housing is maybe a little kind of around the corner, but it's there. But yeah, freaking inflation's a multi-year problem. I don't know when transitory became 3 or 4 years, but that's what we got.
When we come to an infrastructure bill, this is kind of my kindergarten way of looking at it. I purchased a duplex in a town, Lacey, Washington, because they removed the bridge on I-5, the major freeway that goes through the city, basically, and put in a new bridge that is basically a European style 2 roundabouts where the traffic is on the wrong side of the road. It took 26 touch points with traffic lights down to 14. Completely changed the way people get on and off the freeway there. That duplex has gone up about 60% in value in 1 year. That whole area has just almost, I mean, technically it's close to doubled in value. But a safe estimate would be a 60% increase by watching what's happening with the infrastructure. So if something's happening in your local area, also there was a mushroom farm that moved away. So like you can actually track things going on in the area that are going to impact property values. So I would be watching for things like that.
Was the mushroom farm moving away a good thing or a bad thing?
It was a good thing. So it had been there it was a bad thing for the company because the city grew around the mushroom farm. Then the city complained about the mushroom farm. I'm like, it was there the whole time. You knew.
Yeah,
but it was
first
a multiple miles area where the smell in the summer was really bad. So rents were low, property prices didn't go very much. They lost the court battle a couple of years ago. And this is the great thing about real estate is insider trading is legal in real estate. I run a truck driving school. I had several people coming from that company saying, hey, our company's moving away. We need to get a CDL to get a job. And I'm like, oh, 2 years in advance, I know this is going to happen. So I buy a place knowing that's going to happen. Then I watch the infrastructure, and everything done there is legal. Matthew, you feel that they will further drive inflation, home prices, too many dollars chasing a few goods. Exactly what we basically
Agreed.
just said. Yeah. Pallavi, thankfully to all three of your endless teaching plus other team members, effort providing tons of guidance. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone, to all of them, one rental at a time. You too. Sean, if large multifamily corrects, how do you think it will affect single family and 2 to 4 unit multifamily? Mike?
I don't think there will be any direct connection because again, what's going to blow up is the debt. Rents, if this wanted to impact rents, it won't even impact the tenants in the building. It's going to impact the debt holder. And more importantly, let's be very clear, not even the debt holder, it'll hurt the equity. So what does that mean? Again, I see these deals. I'm an accredited investor. A deal looks like this. We are going to buy $100 million apartment building. We are going to put 70% debt on it, which means it's going to be 70 million bucks. We are going to raise $30 million in LP because, of course, no GP puts their own money in. I mean, why would you do that? Why have skin in the game as a GP? You get paid all this freaking fees to do all this other nonsense. Then rents will plateau. They won't go up. You'll have property taxes go up. Your NOI will not be what it's want. Then the bank will look at your NOI and your asset statement and say, hey, that building was worth 100. Now it's worth 80. If we're going to extend your loan, you're going to have to give us an extra 24 million bucks to get to the right debt coverage. The owner's going to go, shit, I can't get $24 million from my investor. We're going to sell the building at 80 million. They're going to exit with 2 million bucks after selling costs. LPs lose everything. GPs lose nothing. And I buy a building that was once 100 for 72 million bucks. I win. It doesn't impact residential at all.
Yeah, I see the two being completely different. Like,
Agreed.
As an investor, liking 30-year fixed rate debt, liking house hacking, I don't even look at 5 units or more. So to me, this very separate asset classes. And when it comes to syndications, there's an X factor in real estate. There's 2 lines. And the higher you go on the lines, the more money you're going to make. The first line in the X is work. The more work you do, the more money you're going to make. If you self-manage short-term rentals on Airbnb, you're going to have the highest rent to payment issue or ratio. You go down to having a property manager, you go down to long-term rental. The further down you go down that line, the less money you're going to make. You get all the way to the bottom and you have syndications where you're getting a percentage back after the person who put the syndication together takes their cut. And then the other line in that X is your risk factor. The more risk you're willing to take, the more money you have the potential to make. So those 2 lines line up to me, and it completely eliminates multifamily. I know, Mike, you've played in that space before, but and until maybe I connect with your guy that has 30-year fixed rate debt, because the biggest fear for me is the loan reevaluation period.
Exactly. That's what is going to blow up multifamily and why it won't impact. It won't even impact the tenants in the building. Won't know that the owner just lost their ass because it'll all be debt based. It won't impact the tenants at all.
Retrainer. What does your property tax look like in New Hampshire? How is that calculated for you, Lumberjack?
So they have something called a mill rate here. And the mill rate is basically inclusive of what the state is going to take as well as what the city takes. And then you can pick your town. We call it picking your poison because you're going to be anywhere from as low as an 8 mill rate all the way up to a 35 mill rate. And that 35 mill rate is $35 per thousand. So if you have a $100,000 house, it's $3,500. A $300,000 house, do the math. It is over $10,000. But the way that they assess the values, that's where the other thing is. So the joke here is, oh, well, assessments are up. That's okay. Our taxes are going down. Now, nominally, your taxes are going up, but the percentage will go down. And then the joke is the next year, oh, taxes, the percentage taxes are going up. The tax rate, the mill rate's going up. That's all right. Assessments are going down, but they still find a way to get more money. So it's back and forth every single year. So that's the one thing that we watch in New Hampshire, because I believe, and Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, when you buy something in California based on Prop, whatever
13,
it is,
Prop 13.
Prop 13. So your property taxes are fixed based on when you buy that property, right?
Fixed, well, it's just a subtle twist. It can go up 3% a year, which is 3% on
Okay.
the rate. So I bought houses for under 50 grand and
Yep.
my property taxes are laughable low.
Yeah.
Still, yeah, because of Prop 13. I like Prop 13. Prop 13.
Yeah. Prop 13, yeah, that's one thing that's really good for us because we don't have an income tax. And so you have to look at all the equations of income and blah, blah, blah. So that 13 unit or 12 unit that I bought for 1.31 million, the property tax there is $28,000 a year. Yeah. It's basically $2,300 a month.
Youch!
Yeah.
When it comes to property
My mortgage is
taxes,
$5,000.
there's a couple things to think of as an investor when it comes to property taxes. Is first, tenants pay those, but you can only buy if tenants paying the property taxes gives you the yield you're looking for. So you need to factor it into your equation
That's
when
right,
you're looking
of
for
course.
your cash on cash return is basically your cost to acquire, minus expenses. You're getting your annual profit divided by your cost to acquire.
Mhm.
The thing that a lot of investors make the mistake on is they look at their taxes where they're at when they buy the property. And the property taxes in most areas, the property was purchased 10, 15 years ago for a much lower amount, and they've incrementally gone up with taxes. In states like Washington, when you buy a property, you create a factual event that tells the county tax assessor that's the current value of the property. So while the percentage they charge for taxes can't go up, the valuation of the property can change
That's
based on
right.
whatever it currently is. So we look at the MLS listing and we think, okay, that's the property taxes. And then you buy the property and it's 2 or 3 times that. So factor that into your purchase, doing the work, learning your area, knowing what the taxes are going to be after you purchase it is the number that you use in your tax for the equation.
Correct.
My thing moved, sorry. Crimson Knight, happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Almost completely forgot this thing was happening, but not today. You didn't forget. Cassidy, when looking for a good area to invest in besides personal advantages, knowledge of an area, what are the key pieces of info to focus on? Matt.
I would say, oh boy. Oh, did I just lose you guys?
No.
Nope.
Okay. Sorry. I would say probably the most important thing or the most important areas for me were proximity. That was the most important thing for me because of how I wanted to run my business. So for me, it was proximity. And then it was, like I said before, which was just understanding the market better for where exactly I was looking or watching, if that makes sense. The neighborhood that I was looking at.
How about you, Matt or Mike?
I'm actually going to take this question a different way because I don't know Cassidy, so I might be totally off base, but this is for most new investors. I believe most new investors spend too much time trying to find the perfect market, and that takes them away from learning the skill, right? If you're in my course, How to Get Started One Rental at a Time, you know that I'm trying to teach you a skill. Learn the skill and then find the market. I think too many people are trying to find the best market, the perfect market, the next up and coming, and they don't do deals. They don't make offers. One day they're in Huntsville, then they're in Nashville, then they're in Cleveland, then they're in this, and then they're in that. So when I hear questions or read questions like that, I get nervous because I believe real estate investing is a skill. I believe if you learn the skill, you can do great deals anywhere. I don't believe there is a perfect market. I have seen people over time lose their ass in great markets. I have seen people make great money in horrible markets. I have invested in California, one of the least landlord-friendly states, for 20 flipping years and done a pretty good job. That question, again, Cassidy, this is not meant for you. It's meant for most people saying this. You're not learning the skill. You're focused on the market. And I believe that's the wrong step one.
Okay. And Cassidy, so I agree with Mike. You learn the skill and how to apply it to the market. When you're picking the market, you ask for, what are things that you look for to make it a good market? And you said without the personal advantage. So either you live there or you used to live there, so you know the neighborhoods, or you have boots on the ground. The next thing you said was you have knowledge of the area. I look for multiple economic drivers. I want to make sure there's more than one source of tenants. So several large businesses, a base, a port, a college, a hospital, something where I know that if one or two of those things goes away, there's still going to be people there. I would prefer to go to a place where population is increasing. And you can usually find this by going to U-Haul and figuring out which states people are moving to. They track their truck movements.
Yep.
So you're learning the market. And this is a law enforcement background. Don't make a decision saying, this is the strategy I'm going to use in this market. Study that market and figure out which strategy works best there, and then figure out if that's one that you want to do. There are some markets where buy and hold might not be the best deal. And things are going up so fast, flipping is the best strategy for there, but I don't want to flip. So you're going to be competing with flippers in that market. But in my area, I wanted single family house. They don't cash flow. So I switched to small multifamily. As you're learning the market, make sure you're adjusting your strategy to what works best there, because in almost every market, like Mike said, somebody is investing successfully. Eli, what's the timeline on a cash out refi? I'll know in a few months, but you guys should know.
Yeah, so I've just done a couple of them. It's actually the appraisal that's the long pole in this. So one of my cash out refis was 41 days, another one was 53.
Yep, 45 to 60 is what I tell everybody. Yep.
For me, it's about 11 years because I've just now chosen to do it. That's how long it took.
Hopefully you weren't rate locked.
Yeah, that's a hell of a lot of points.
Right. And hopefully I wasn't peer pressured into it. Rob, Mike, in California, is anything not long-term considered short-term? Renting to a traveling nurse on a 6-month contract, is that still short-term, thus subject to regulations?
I believe, again, I don't do those, but I've been asked a lot, and I have friends that do Airbnb. Yeah, anything less than 12 months is considered short-term. But again, not a lawyer, not an attorney. That's just what I've been told, secondhand information. I only do year leases and then go month to month. So I don't play in that game. So just what I've heard, Rob.
Fair enough. And then howdy, knock it on. I told a Phoenix realtor to stop sending me 800K deals with 3,000 a month in income. Realtors need to quit using a performer to set sales price. I like to give my agents a very broad search pattern and then refine it like that. Tell them, okay, so let's eliminate this, or let's narrow down the footprint. And I don't think anybody should use performa anything. There's literally a caveat in the listing that says, the agent is allowed to lie and make up any numbers they want. You have to verify them yourself. They might use different words, but that's basically what it says. So yeah. Matthew Paris, question for Mike. When can we expect Reventure Capital course in your program to teach us about what to look for in a crash?
Oh, that made me laugh. That was a good one.
We'll have to have Reventure Capital do the slides for you.
Yeah. There was a point where I would have loved to interview that guy just to figure out where his head's at. At this point, I have zero respect, so I don't even think I'd take that phone call.
No, that was a great comment. I love it.
That was awesome.
I do like that it was a way to sneak in the name of the channel. We usually just say that person that's so stupid they say stuff, we're not going to give them credit.
Yeah.
Here's their name, right?
We often call him the guy that lives in his mom's basement.
Mom's basement. There you go.
He's the mom's basement. Whenever we make that inside joke, that's who we're talking about.
That's the cheat code to stupidity.
Yeah, we don't know if that's true. We just like to say it because it's our three's jokes, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
Right. And for the defamation lawsuit, my name is Michael Zuber.
How is that? I'm not saying any names. It's just our
Crimson Knight. I have a tenant upstairs who gets her rent from COVID relief money from, and then housing,
NH.
850 until February. NH housing is willing to pay 18 months, but I want to raise to 1,500. Don't want to kick her out, but don't know if NH housing will pay that much through what to do. I treat this like the housing authority. I use a version of my binder method. I find comps in the area that justify that rent by being that amount or higher. And I send it in an email to the housing authority. So I would send it to NH housing saying, this is what the tenant is currently at. this is what the rent is going to, making sure in your local area you're complying with rental rent control laws. In an area like Washington, you're complying with notification to do any rent increase over 10%. In my counties, we have to give a 60-day notice. How would you guys handle that? Matt?
Being from New Hampshire, here's exactly how I would handle it. So Crimson Knight, what you need to do, you can say below if she's under lease. If she's not under lease, you can just send her notice and that what her rent is going to. And you don't have to justify anything. You can literally just say, this is what your rent is going to. And that is actually one of the programs that is extremely in short supply of units. So I would ask her who her contact is. I would call that contact, and likely in your market, because I know you've asked questions before, you're actually light on 1,500. It's more expensive than that. But that's what I would do. I've actually worked with that program. They are having trouble finding units. And so we've always been able to negotiate something favorable where I was able to allow the tenant to stay if they weren't under lease and it was just a month to month. We were able to work on a number to say, I will agree to this amount for an 18-month period and allow her to stay.
Retrainer. Wow, that's worse than Massachusetts. Sorry, lumberjack landlord. Thanks for sharing. Live free or die.
I think this is super important, guys. So I'll spend 1 minute on it. What's really important is REI trainer. Show me the last 5 deals that you've done and if they range between 20 and 43% return on capital. Because the taxes don't matter. It's all about understanding your state, your county, your area. It's understanding where you can create efficiencies in your market, because it's all about return on capital. So while those taxes on that 12 unit are extremely high at $28,000, I was able to do a deal that will give me 43% return. So to me, I don't care how I get there unless it's illegal. I want to get there legally. But so long as I can get there legally, I don't care if it's way high in taxes, way high in water sewer prices. I take all of those numbers and I put them into the blender. And so long as I get the return on capital that I want, it's a deal. And that particular deal, $28,000, where the taxes are absolutely outrageous, I'm still printing money at a 43% clip. I'm going to literally make 100% of my money back in 3 years that I put into that deal. And I put $300,000 into that deal. Yeah, return on capital.
Yield probably answers this next question too. Know thyself first. For those of us with properties in Texas, how much does inflation and higher taxes going to affect us? Does not having income tax help us in short and long term? Mike?
I have a bunch of people that bought in Texas and they were telling me to do that in 08 because, of course, investing in California is a horrible idea. Everybody says all the time. You have to watch property tax, especially if you are an investor, right? Because if you're an owner in Texas, you're not hit as hard. But if you're an investor, your taxes are reset every year. And like, dude, if you're in Austin, pucker up. You are about to get hammered.
Yeah.
And again, I do not invest in Texas, but many of my friends do. And rents are not keeping up with tax raises. So people were having positive yields, and then now they're lower and lower, and a couple of them went negative. So I don't like alligators. So I don't know what you bought. I don't know what the price points are. I think resetting property taxes every year it's the number one reason I never bought in Texas.
Mike, most importantly, this is where people can learn something from your course. This is critical. It's the affordability index.
Exactly.
To Mike's point, people bought those houses in Austin at $200,000. Now that's a $450,000 house, but the taxes now are almost more than what the mortgage is. And now it's an alligator. That's what happens in states that don't have income tax: New Hampshire, Florida, Texas. This is what happens in those states.
They got to get the money from somewhere.
They get it from somewhere. And so the only thing that you have to make sure that you're doing is, what they have created though, is that person has a $250,000 house. They've now owned for a few years. They probably owe or they bought it for 200. They can probably sell it for 450. And what should they be doing? probably selling it for the 450, taking that money and getting into apartments, just like Mike transitioned, because the affordability index on single family homes in no income tax states are getting crushed right now. They're getting crushed right now. That's why I haven't bought a single family home that I wasn't flipping. I haven't bought a single family home in 2 or 3 years. That's why.
There you go.
Yeah, I've only got one single family home too. And I'm kind of on the fence of, I'm doing the cash out refinance, of looking at what it appraises at and possibly just selling it, just because it's so high in value. I'm getting a great cash on cash return now. I'm not getting a very good cash on equity return. So I'll adjust as we go. And then Crimson Knight, she has already told me she wants to die in the apartment. Sometimes I like to edit because sometimes I say something and then later I realize I probably don't want that in the video. But I had a tenant tell me the same thing. I purchased a duplex. I've talked about it earlier in this live stream. The rent was at $11.30. And I was talking to the tenant, and he was an older gentleman, and he thought I was buying it and then going to move in. And I said, no, I actually don't plan on kicking you out. I'm buying this as an investment. He said, good, because I plan on living here until I die. And he did. And that's when it went up to 1,800. So sometimes it's good to have a tenant you know is going to be in place for a while. Know thyself first. When is the right time in your ownership of property to do a cash out refinance? Of course, it's always a good day to buy a great deal. I know Mike has a good answer for this one.
Yeah, so I think it's when you have a better return on capital, right? So I've done it a couple of different times. I first did it in 05, 06, or actually, no, first time I did it was 04. I did it badly. So don't take too much cash out and create an alligator. So you can do them wrong, which I did. I've just done it recently. Basically, when you have a plan for the capital, right? I don't like the idea of constantly going back. There's these people that say refi to or die kind of stuff. That's not what I'm in. I've gone through basically 2 cycles of cash out refinances, once in kind of 03 to 06, and then once 2020 and 21. So it's not something I do regularly, but it definitely comes around, right? When the debt structure is right, when the equity's there. But I'm not a guy that says, let's refi it every 3 years. That's not what I do.
Matt?
Agreed. Mike answered it perfectly.
Okay. So I get the question often of, should I use a home equity line of credit or a refinance? And to me, the first question is always, what's the intended use of the cap? What are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
Can you get a return that justifies it? So that's when I know that it's right. Most of the people who watch our content are newer investors, or they only have a couple of deals. And there are some people who have several, and they have information to share in our Facebook groups too.
Mm-hmm.
I took a poll on my channel one time, and I think 64% of the people watching had not done a deal yet. So I'm always trying to communicate to the person who's just starting out. So if you have a big portfolio and you have great cash flow, it makes sense to do what we're doing, where we're cashing out because of good interest rates, having cash sitting on the side, ready to pounce on a deal that comes up in the future. I would not do that in my first few years when I didn't have a good confidence in my expectation to get my return. I didn't have the cash flow to support mistakes. So in the beginning, I would only do it if I knew I had a deal to go for. Yen, happy Thanksgiving to you and your families. You too. ML, seen some house hack properties with a pool. Should I fill it in with concrete, or will that hurt value? Mike?
So I can't talk about house hacking, never done it. However, I bought a couple of apartment buildings with pool, and one of the very, 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 very first things I did was crack the pool bottom and fill it in. There's only so many things I can control in life as a landlord. One of them is I'm not going to have somebody drowned on my property. So I did that on purpose. Now, a house hacks, what's the plan? How long? Pools add value. I don't like, if you're in Arizona or Vegas, you probably need a pool. If you're in other parts of the country, maybe not. So not a great idea, but Michael Zuber will never own a rental with a pool, ever, 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 ever.
Matt?
I'm with Mike on that one too. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't fill it with concrete. I'd probably fill it with dirt.
Yeah, what you do is, again, I had to pay it. There's a process, a tax, a fee. You have to break the bottom. The bottom's actually really shallow. The sides are really, anyways.
Yes.
Break the bottom, move in dirt, put in some gravel, and it's a whole process to fill in a pool. Yeah, it's basically dirt. Yeah.
Yeah, don't do it in concrete anymore. That'll cost you like 15 grand.
Oh yeah, don't do it in concrete.
Yeah, do it with dirt and stone dust and things like that. But yeah, there's ways to do it. But I agree with Mike. I wouldn't have a property. I would not have a property, even a house hack, that I had a pool, just because people won't treat it the same way that I will. You know.
And I will devil's advocate on this. I live in Washington. Hardly anybody has a pool, so it's not an issue here. But when I was looking at buying in Arizona, one of the things I wanted with my fourplex was a pool.
Sure.
And I would have made sure I had triple the amount of insurance that I needed, and I would have still been able to get my yield with higher insurance. So area dependent, your risk tolerance dependent. And do you want, I wanted a pool. Like it was going to be, I was going to be house hacking. So I was going to be living there in Arizona. I want a pool because I'm from Washington and was going to probably die there. So Crimson Knight, she is not under lease. Okay.
Contact, find out who her contact is and call them and have that conversation with her. That's what I would do. You will get more than 1,500 because there's a massive shortage.
Cassidy has a question for me.
Mhm.
With your binder strategy, how often do you use it on long-term tenants? Is it just go-to method whenever it is time to renegotiate the lease? What about month to month? So originally I developed the binder strategy for inherited tenants when you buy a property and they're usually below area markets. I normally did a 5% rent increase every other year. And from 2013 till 2020, that kept up with our rent increases here. 2020 and 21 rents are increasing over 20%. So in this year, I am using the binder strategy with all existing tenants. About a month ago, I used it with 3 tenants. I had a $200 rent increase request. That's the smallest one, a $250 and a $310 on existing tenants. So 20 to 40% basically is what I'm seeing at tenant request. So if rents are going up quickly, I would use the binder strategy on any tenant. If rents are going up gradually, when I was doing the 5% every other year, I wouldn't use it. I would just say, hey, we didn't raise rents last year. This year, there's going to be a 5% bump. You know, things cost more. Never had a problem with that. Probably could have done more, probably could have done faster. But knowing that I have the binder strategy in the back of my mind to get rents where I need them and I don't have rent control, because one of the things most people don't consider with rent control is it forces the owner to do the maximum allowable rent increase every year, or you fall behind and you lose your property value. So that's how that one works. And I don't do month-to-month leases. When I buy properties, I like month-to-month because it's my screening period to figure out if I like those tenants or not. After a couple of months of making sure they pay rent on time, there's no noise complaints, they don't call me for super trivial things, then I'll renew. And I always want at least a year lease. Often I'll go 2 years. And that's part of the binder strategy, is getting the tenant to request a longer lease, because I don't want to have to do a rent increase next year or have this conversation again. But if I had month to month, you could use the binder strategy anytime, as long as you knew how much notification you need to give in your area. Angel, thank you. This format is great. I like it. Thanks, Matt, for putting this together. Appreciate it. I have a couple of Zoom, whatever their highest level accounts is, through my company. So if this is something we could set up again in the future, and
it is.
Sure. Josh, wanting to buy small multifamily in my area, Puget Sound, Washington. Small multis come on the MLS fairly infrequently and overpriced. Would it make sense to start marketing to those sellers? Matt.
Yes. Absolutely. Without a doubt. And there's stuff like that in Mike's course. It's absolutely fantastic. But yes, absolutely, you should be marketing those people. You're not going to get a ton of hits, but quite frankly, you couldn't afford as many hits as you're going to get. So, you know, you get one hit in a year and it makes sense to do it. It's all about them knowing. And the other opportunity too is that I'm sure there's some landlords there, and you can use like a prop stream to find out, you know, older landlords, people that have owned the place. And when I say older, I'm not talking about their age. I'm talking about the longevity of which they've owned the property. So 20 years, 30 years, 25 years. You know, if they've owned it for that long, they've seen a ton of appreciation. You can, you know, they might be in their, 60s or 70s and saying, you know what, it's time to finally close this out. So absolutely be trying to find a way to get in front of those people, and, prop stream or services like that can certainly help you with that stuff.
Sounds like you agree, Mike.
Yeah, that's why it's in the course, because I started doing it. Anything that I do, I add to the course. So prop stream, you can do searches, criteria, endless. You can do postcards right from the application. My team uses it. That's why it's in the course. So there you go.
Mike, how long have you been using PropStream?
My guys have been using it at the hub in Fresno, which is that office building I own, for about 2.5 years.
And how many deals do you think you found that way?
So my personal portfolio, so of the 58 flips I did, probably 23 or 24 came via that. I've added 10 units because of that. More importantly, the office has done over 100 deals because of it.
Okay.
Wow.
And I'm not doing this
There
on
you go.
purpose, but to devil's advocate, Josh, I don't know your position or your bandwidth for real estate. I work full time, usually 50 to 60 hours a week, single parent with 3 kids, which I thought when they got over 18, it would take less time to parent them, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
And I'm super lazy. So all of my deals, I'm in the Puget Sound area right here with you, are from the MLS. I would ask, how are you searching? Multiple agents with multiple searches is what it takes for me to find the deals that I'm finding. And then are you studying the area average rents and setting your search at just below that, because they're skyrocketing this year. I bought a duplex years ago for $298,000. My friend just closed a couple days ago, right up the street, like 6 houses up, for $555,000. And people would think, well, that duplex and your duplex, 298, 555, that's crazy. Why would she do that? Her return first year is better than my return first year, because rents, you're looking at the whole picture. So in this area, you might be looking for prices based on last year's rents. Don't anticipate rents going up in the future, but figure out where they're at now and have multiple searches set up. I'm finding my deals. I found that deal for her on the MLS. My deal that I closed on in May was on the MLS. And my 2 investor friends in this area here told me they never would have bought that place that I bought in May. The return was not good. And then I showed them what happened after the binder conversation, and they both are upset that they didn't jump on the deal. So
Yeah. And just one more, hopefully everybody knows this by now, but I retired financially free buying out of the MLS. I only did 2 deals for 15 years, not out of the MLS. I've only started direct mail because A, I got guys for that, and B, I can afford the mailers. So definitely what I would not, if I was still traveling all over the world, I wouldn't use mailers, but every day Saturday. So why not?
every day Saturday, right? You could try something super simple, like looking for places that are for rent and calling to see if it's the owner or a property manager, and if it's the owner saying you'd be interested in selling. So it could be a lot less cost intensive than doing full mailers and paying for searches and stuff.
Sure.
Rankin Projects. Happy Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
Josh, I got as far as buying a list from the list source, but haven't started marketing yet. Cool. So if you spent the money to buy it, put the work into using it.
Mm-hmm.
Josh, happy Thanksgiving to one rental family, by the way, to everybody. And I'm still going to call you retrainer, REI trainer. Matt corrected me finally after me saying it that way for every time I've said it on my channel for the past few months. This is impressive returns. That is impressive returns. Thanks for sharing, Lumberjack. Crimson Knight, no sales tax. And it also helps when you buy 8,700 of flooring from American Flooring, tax-free, something to consider. Yeah, so state tax is a big impact too. Washington doesn't have an income tax, but it has a sales tax. They tried to put in a corporate tax, but I think it got overturned off the check. Another one reason in my long list of reasons of not having an LLC. Georgie, happy Thanksgiving, amigos. In how many years do you typically like to get a return on your investment? I'll let you guys answer, because my thought immediately went to that's not how I look at it. But Matt.
It's return on capital. So it's like if I put, $100,000 into a deal, I expect to start getting paid back on my capital that first rent check.
Yeah.
How it goes. So how fast you return it, that's obviously based on, there's things like the market and things like that it can be based on, but I'm only looking at one thing, which is rents. I'm not trying to figure out appreciation. I'm not even trying to figure out appreciation of rents, because the last 3 years has nothing to do with what the next 3 years is going to look like. So I only care about one thing, and that is my return on my capital. If I put $100,000 in the deal, month 1, I make $1,000, and that continues to go up. And then year 2, guess what? It probably goes up higher than that, usually, because rents for me in 20 plus years have only been flat. They've not gone down.
Mm-hmm.
Happy Thanksgiving, person in the background that we can't see. No,
Yeah.
It's probably Olivia. Hi, Olivia.
Yeah, they're saying hi, Olivia. They can't see you right now, but yeah. Yeah, it's fine. You can't see you. It's fine.
The
Behind the
wonders
scenes
of
moment.
live television.
Yeah,
Exactly.
So I'm really glad you asked that question, Georgie, because I postponed investing in real estate for 10 years because of something my brother said that sounded very much like this question. My brother used to say, when I buy a property in 11 years, I get all my money back. I didn't realize he was talking on how long it took his return to match the total purchase price of the property. I'm looking at yield. I want in my market a 10% or better yield first year. So if I spend $100,000 to buy a property, I want $10,000 in profit the next year, that first year of owning it. When my brother was saying, it takes me 11 years to get my money back, I wasn't thinking he still had his money.
Mhm.
It was just in the property instead of in the bank. He could do a home equity line of credit, cash out refinance. He could sell. All that money was still his. So 10 years, I thought that seems kind of stupid to invest in something to get your money back in 11 years because I've got my money now. Why would I give it to somebody else for 11 years? Finally, my brain clicked on, oh, that's just how he's wording it. Right. So for us, it sounds like all three of us, it's yield.
Only metric that matters.
That's it. Return on capital. We're coming up on 2 hours, gents. We calling it in 4 minutes.
Yes. So it'll go down to the last question is with Nathan.
Yeah, we'll go to
Okay.
Nathan. That's fine.
Okay. So Matthew just recalculated my property tax increases. You're up 7%. Florida lost its dang mind, but a lot of people are moving there. So a lot of people are liking those taxes.
Yeah.
Don't even get you
Return on
started on
capital,
Florida insurance premiums. Yeah, insurance is the barrier in Florida because I've got a friend I'm trying to help invest there, and one property next to another property, the flood insurance can be so astronomically different. It's $12,000 difference for one property to the next because one was built a year later and meets a certain code. And so if you don't get really hyper focused in that market, insurance can kill you in Florida. Larry. Mike likes saying every day is Saturday. Appreciate you guys giving back. Every Thursday is Thanksgiving with three amigos. Nice. Yeah, Thursday is Thanksgiving. Nice. Know thyself. What's the best way for a new investor to track accounts for your first 4 to 5 properties? Email me. I'll put my chat and my email in here again. I've got my spreadsheet that I use. I have 16 rental units self-managed, 1 checking account, 1 savings account, 1 credit card that I pay off daily, a spreadsheet with 1 tab for expenses, paid off daily. So I never carry an account. When you go to run your credit, the day of the month that the credit agency runs it can give you your credit utilization for that card. And since I work for a truck driving school, it can be $23,000 one day. So it's just paid off every day. I never carry a balance.
Wow.
Right. So it can have a big impact. And I have memory problems. I don't know if I've mentioned that. I think I have. Sorry for the odd pun, but I've never missed a payment since I paid off daily.
Yeah, no kidding. That'd be hard to do.
Hard to do.
That's awesome.
So I'm going to put my email in the chat. I will send my spreadsheet that is kindergarten simple to anybody who asks for it. And if I share it with you and you have the knowledge and ability, share it in the 3 Amigos of 5 Facebook group or the 1 Rental at a Time Facebook group. Thanks. Yen, would you consider turning your primary residence into a rental property if cash flow makes sense, or sell if it becomes double in price when you purchased it? Matt?
No, probably not. I would just sell it. I mean, if we bought something very unique, it's probably our rest of life house. So we just bought something very unique. And so we wouldn't rent it out. We're actually going to be going bi-coastal where we're do time here and time somewhere else. So yeah, we're going to just basically leave it as is and just have somebody check in on it type of thing.
And Mike?
It depends on where you are, right? If you're a big shot, have a 12,000 square foot house, probably doesn't make sense. You probably should sell that. You need a lumberjack. But if you're a first time home buyer, I mean, I think that's a great way to get on the property ladder, right? If you're buying a bread and butter home that's, again, if you're buying a home below the median, there's lots of ways to extract equity other than selling it. You have to realize that you do have income tax advantages by selling your primary residence, assuming you've lived there 2 out of the 5 years. You know, so it's a deeper question. It's hard to answer. But basically my answer is what's the plan, right? If your intention when you bought it was to make it a rental, then it becomes a rental. If you bought it and 5 years later you found real estate investing, but now it's kind of in a very nice area, cash flow is not great, you got a lot of equity, probably sell it, take the tax advantage and do something else. So probably most of them sell it.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm an idiot. I took that literally.
Yeah.
I'm in that exact position, Yen. I own my single family house that I bought that was going to be my forever home and then turned it into a rental. Math kind of tells me I should sell. It's gone up in value so much that I'm getting a good cash on cash return, but not a good cash on equity return. So I'm looking at doing a cash out refinance. And I always like editing because I never know if this is going to be something I would take out of the video or not, but I'm keeping that house because I kept it through a divorce and the sense of victory that I have that I collect a rent check on that house. Yeah, see, I would take that out of the video. But if it appraises high enough during this refinance, I might consider selling. I mean, it just makes more sense to put the money to work. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Something we struggle with. Rob, thanks. Got to go. Nathan, good morning. Larry, good morning, Nathan. Larry, have any of you pursued marketing to potential seller financing candidates?
Mm-hmm.
What methods were used and any success? So Mike, you said 15 to 20 of those. So
yeah, so my team and I directly market to sellers. I put it out there, 6-8 weeks ago that I was doing that. I'm spending $1,000 on a very refined list, out of state, 10 years or more. What was the other thing? I think equity below 50% LTV, something like that. So yeah, we've had plenty of conversations. Nobody's ready to bite yet, but if you know anything about direct mail, it's not a one-time thing. It's like a drip campaign. Yeah. But yes, for example, the last seller finance deal I did, I bought one of his houses 3 years ago. And then he called me up and said, I want to sell everything I have left. So I did 15 units seller financing because of direct marketing. So yeah, it does work. It absolutely does work. You got to remember, you're not, what most of these wholesalers and direct marketers get wrong, and they get wrong in their message, because I am an owner and I get hit daily with these things. Most people think they're marketing to sellers. Your marketing is not to sellers. You are marketing to an owner. The marketing is different. The language is different. So that's my one word to advice. So my message to people is, hey, I'm an owner just like you. I started here. My plan is to do this. If your plan happens to match, I'd love to have a conversation. It's not get cash now. It's not all this other nonsense. All these wholesaler YouTube channels are doing you a disservice, because you are not marketing to a seller. You are marketing to an owner who might be a seller. And the message is very different.
And Matt?
Yes, I concur. The way that it's just it's a completely different message. Like Mike said, it's not, it's very much getting them to consider the option. But again, this is likely the first time they've heard this, I guess, presented the way that a Mike or myself would present it, because they are not, if they're doing sub 2 or if they're doing seller financing or anything like that, what's the most important thing they come away with that conversation feeling? That they can trust you.
Yeah, it's about you. Yeah, it's a relationship.
Exactly. It's like, is this going to be a fly-by-night guy? Is this guy going to be wicked over-leveraged that I'm going to actually get torpedoed if this thing happens? Like that sort of stuff. So yeah, that's where I think that's important.
And then I'll take it a different way, not specifically marketing to seller financing, but with every single offer I'm making now on the MLS, I'm also submitting a seller financing option. So my letter that I'm sharing with people, if you email me, it literally says, these are all the reasons seller financing would work. This is why I want to do it. But if you're not okay with that, here's my offer for conventional lending. So it's just everything. And the first time I tried it about 2 months ago, I thought, oh, I'll just try this. It was accepted. And then that deal fell apart because they had a mortgage that was just above what I could afford for the down payment. Because my down payment needs to include getting rid of whatever mortgage they have and taking care of agent fees. Because I still use an agent on seller financing. I want my agents to make money because then they bring me more deals.
Absolutely.
That's right.
And we're almost to the last question here. I think one more popped up after that, but we'll see what we can get to. So Nathan, question for all three of the amigos. What would you guys do if you did not do real estate? Just curious. And Mike, and then there's Matt. So let's start with Matt.
I would probably just work my other job because I still work full time. So I would continue. I'd stay in software and do that and be a, software exec and just keep on doing that. But I enjoy what I get out of the real estate stuff. I don't think if I had to start today and pick one, I mean, if I had money, I'd probably do real estate. If I didn't have money, I'd probably start with software. So.
Yeah. So I'm very good at taking an idea from nothing to something. I've repeatedly taken products from 0 to 100 million. That is a very high paid and high rewarding job. I would just do that.
I still, like Matt, I still work my job. Love what we do. Get to run a truck driving school. I get to play in trucks like they're go-karts. Yeah, I don't think I would change that. I would find an investing strategy if real estate went away to where I could put money to work, because we're all on that timeline of, I think with most asset classes, within 10 years, we can make work optional.
Absolutely.
It might not be the 4% rule based on what I can make, but it would be some version of that. And then, so one last question here from JPF3, first time investor in California, not sure which way to go. Capital in hand, debating single family or duplex. What I was going to say, San Francisco, single family or duplex. What would you do and why? Mike?
Yield. I buy the highest yield every time. I don't care if it's a 500 square foot shoebox or a 20 unit apartment building. I buy the highest yield. I don't care about unit count. I don't care about unit count. I don't care about unit count. I buy the highest yield.
Matt?
Yield, return on capital every single time. That's what it's all about. It's not about potential appreciation. It's only about the return on capital, because any of those other things can go sideways based on policy, and return on capital largely cannot, or if it does, it's very slow that when that happens.
Okay, I would break it down to your current situation. Yet look at yield, definitely, but duplexes, if you can use FHA loan, the 3.5% down is the same for duplex or single family. If you're not going to owner occupy, the single family might be easier to get lending on. Yeah, so I would house hack either way. That would be my answer to get the better lending, especially if you don't have a lot of, how much capital you have in hand. I would, learn the yield in your area. In my area, my brain just says no single family, because I've never, in 10 years, I haven't seen one that cash flows. Like the one I own only cash flows because I bought it in 2000. Like
Right,
it wouldn't
exactly.
cash flow if somebody buys it now.
Exactly.
Cool. And then the last thing to cover, this isn't a question, it's just a comment. Matt, you said that I blew your mind when I talked about cash on equity. The reason to come to live streams and to be in the Facebook groups is because when conversations like this happen, we don't know what we need to learn. And until somebody just randomly says something and it clicks in our brain, that's going to be something that you can use going forward. So from all of us to all of you, happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, all.
Happy Thanksgiving.
See you next Thursday.
Take care, guys.
Bye.